dance for joy.
Welcome to Sensible Secondhand Classics, a series where we look at sensible, practical cars that are over 15 years old that you can buy in good condition for a budget of between £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 1992 Volvo 940 2-litre turbo Wentworth Saloon automatic, which is an awful lot of word, isn't it? It's owned by Mr. Coleman, the British mechanic, who many of you will have seen on his YouTube channel himself. But is it any good? Should you care? Why, let's find out, shall we? So the Volvo 940 was kind of like a very heavily facelifted version of the early 740 and was introduced in 1990. We've had 3 other 940s already on the channel, all on no budget reviews, all estates. These days, the idea of getting a 940 Saloon for no budget reviews money is a bit of a pipe dream, to be honest. They just don't really exist with an MOT. I mean, you could probably get one that's been around a banger track for sort of under £1,000, but one like this car is in almost concours condition. It only had 2 owners from new before Mr. Coleman. The first owner only kept the car for, I think, a couple of years, actually. This is the famous red block engine in this car. Now, there were 2 capacities for a red block engine in a 940, 2 litre and 2.3 litre. The 2 litre only had 2 power outputs, 1 non-turbo, and I've driven one of those in an estate with an automatic gearbox, which is 111 horsepower. And then this 2 litre turbo, which is normally designed for markets like Italy, but some of them did find their way over here before 1994. This is a 92, and that generated 155 horsepower. We've got a turbo gauge here to prove it. There were some other engines available as well. After 1994, all 940s in this country had 2.3 engines. There was an 8-valve engine which generated 131 horsepower. A 16-valve version of that engine, 155 horsepower. But then we get onto the sort of more interesting engines other than that. The 2 earlier 2.3 turbos were 165 and the rare 190 horsepower version of the engine. That's a very desirable engine, actually, in the 940. And the 2 later turbos with 135 horsepower and a light pressure turbo. I've driven 2 of those. And then the high pressure turbo, which was 170 horsepower. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. What we do talk about instead is the fact that this car actually is very, very smooth and nice to drive. The red block engines do sometimes have a bit of piston slap when they're cold. This engine's now nicely warmed up with temperatures nicely in the middle, so it's nice and quiet. If you want even more kind of power and refinement, you go for a 940, which had engines with over 200 horsepower in the case of the 3 litre straight 6 white block. But for these, you know, nice power steering, very light, really quite sort of agreeable, you know, nice ride even on these wheels that are like a dealer period upgrade with lower profile tyres than you normally have. This car actually handles a bit better than the other 940s I've driven, but the rear suspension in the Saloon is a bit different from an estate for a start. And also this one on the tyres, it has this sort of alloy wheels with the low profile tyres. It means it's just a little bit sharper, a bit more reminiscent to the 960 with that amazing carbon fibre rear leaf spring, particularly the facelift models that they had. So I'm enjoying myself very much. Well, here we are, viewers, in Mr. Coleman's favourite photography spot in Warwickshire. It's by the side of this country road. It's not so good for video, unfortunately, because it is a road and there are cars going past. But it's kind of sort of towards the evening now, and you know the light may be not ideal, but the car looks fantastic. It is an almost concours condition car. The grille is a period Volvo accessory. Now that should actually have a chrome surround on it, and that does need sorting out. You can see actually here that someone's actually painted it where the chrome went funny, and Mr. Coleman's got another surround for it to go on the car. We've also got some period upgrade wheels. These were actually available from Volvo dealerships. They're called Galaxy wheels. A set of these, 3 of them, sold recently for about £1,500, so they're very valuable. They were added by the previous owner to the car, so not original to it, but they are something you could have got at a Volvo dealer back in the day. This side of the car looks better because of the light being funny over there. Also got rear spoiler. This was again something you could get at a Volvo dealer, but it's not original to the car. But we've got plates where the car is from, originally from Essex. HK is very familiar suffix to those of you who are into the Fords before 2001. I forget the name of this colour, but it's very similar to the midnight blue that my mother's Volvo 240, an 89 240 GL Estate used to be. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's very similar to me, so it's all very nostalgic, particularly because I'm on my 3rd Volvo myself, so I'm very into them. The rear lights were changed later on, I think, on these, but yeah, a bit different from a 740 at the back. In fact, from the sort of C-pillar backwards, the car is quite different on the saloons. So open up the boot here. We've actually got a section of exhaust of the car which is due to go on at some point, as well as Mr. Coleman's detailing kit to make it look even more special than it already does. I mean, I saw pictures of this and I just couldn't believe that there was a lot more to do to this to make it into a concours car. But apparently there are some things to do, so there we go. Might be able to lift up this section here to see the wheel, or maybe not. No, it's going to be a bit tricky. But there is a spare wheel under there, of course, and there is actually a ski hatch there too. There we go. My Swedish isn't very good, I can't actually pronounce it. Längdlast or something. But yeah, for long loads, which is quite handy. I think the rear spoiler actually really suits the car, particularly because you've got the turbo engine in this. And, appropriately enough, there's not just a turbo engine, there's actually a turbo boost gauge in here. So there we go. Turbo. Strangely enough, a lot of these 940 Wentworths didn't actually say 940 on them, they just said Wentworth, which is odd. I always thought that was strange. In this car we don't have the 4-speed plus overdrive manual gearbox that a lot of these Wentworths came with. Instead we've actually got a 4-speed auto with the 4th gear being the overdrive in this. So similar dash really to a 740. The 760s and 960s were a bit different. This car's actually got a different rear suspension as well, both from the 940 estate and from the 960. 960s, particularly the later estates, had a fantastic carbon fibre rear leaf spring in them, and they handle really well. This car with these nice Galaxy alloy wheels actually handles better than both an estate or just a normal saloon with you know, these standard steel wheels a lot of these came with. So very simple controls, just idiot proof really. This sort of black textured finish reminds me very much of my mother's 240, and these controls are sort of similar to a lot of the other 940s that we've actually seen. Oh, Mr. Coleman's just driven past in Sanyong Tivoli. He's a kind man. So yeah, air conditioning standard of this, which works. This is the original radio. It is going to be changed, however, because it doesn't work properly. It sort of malfunctions, and you ask them to code and things. One really weird thing is you put that transmission lever selector there, you can't really get very much to this presume it's the ashtray there. 12-volt socket or cigar lighters. You can see it's very clean in this car. Obviously not been owned by many people who smoke. Actually, it has only had 2 owners before Mr. Coleman bought it earlier this month. Then we've got heated seat controls, of course. Normal handbrake, brilliant. We don't need to put it on actually because it's an auto, so we don't need to put it on all the time. I never bothered with my automatic cars to do that really, unless it's a really steep slope. Nice that the clock is massive, absolutely massive. There are problems sometimes with these where the speedo goes a little bit funny on them. It's not too difficult to sort of actually solve that problem. It's a relatively simple thing, but I've seen quite a few of these without speedos working. This one's obviously fine. Again, more of this kind of black textured plastic, which is so reminiscent of the older Volvos. Got a big door pocket, not the tallest, and then the door handles sort of recessed in here for safety. Gosh, that light's really bad. I do apologise, viewers. Yeah, it's sort of recessed in there, so you can't catch it if there's a side impact. And actually, on the back of the car, some of you already seen this. It says the SIP side impact protection system, which was not side airbags at this time. That was later. Volvo's got them, but it was just very hefty side impact bars. Original Volvo overmats in here, which is fantastic. My mother's 240s has some of those, and then the glove box is really similar to one of those as well. We'll have to get the secret mission documents out at some point and put them in there, but everything is just really, really simple. Be nice in a way to have a sunroof in here, but we don't have one in this car, presumably because we've already got air conditioning, so don't need it, I suppose. One thing we've got here, which is really interesting, is a little dimmer switch here for the dash lights. Fog lights are on here, both the front and the back fog lamps are on that one switch there, and then just the lights, and these very spindly traditional Volvo wiper and indicator stalks, and then here is the hazard switch, which will make that noise. If we were to turn the car on and not have the seatbelt though buckled, that would make a really familiar noise to many of you. And that's the original Volvo fire extinguisher. That's probably long expired and past its best, so not best to rely upon that in a fire. But my mother's 240 also had one of these in it for years. You could get that at a Volvo dealer. Ooh, seat's slightly creaky. I like the fabric though. Actually, the fabric looks even better if you get into the back. So we'll just move that up the way. Again, we've got rubber mats as well in the back, which is good. So part leather, part cloth upholstery in this Wentworth. You could get a base leather interior in certain types. I think there was a 940 CD that you could get that in, or GLE. I think you could get that on those, but this is good as well. There's the lumbar adjustment at the back of there. Not got any rear door pockets, which is a bit of a shame, but if we sort of move into here, I can see, yes, if yeah, if I was to start the engine, that would not put my seatbelt on, that would start flashing at me like crazy. If we move this out of the way, you can actually see as well, we've got a child seat in there. I should have bought a little friend to sit in there with me. Maybe the stuffed penguins I got would have sat in there or something. But yeah, it's a bit difficult with one hand, but it is in here. These are now not fitted to cars. Apparently they're quite dangerous or something. But to see this here in operational is quite good. I don't think they were standard on all the 940s. But certainly this one's got it. Yeah, we'll have to use 2 hands to get that out, I think. Headroom is pretty good. I mean, the estate will be even better. But, you know, I'm absolutely fine. I've got plenty of room sitting behind myself. Not quite as much as you'd imagine from this incredibly boxy shape. But good enough. Little coat hook there. And you know, just generally massive, massive grab handles. Will this car sort of lean a lot in the corners like it suggests by the grab handles? I don't know. It probably won't actually. Right, let's see if we can sort out this child seat thing. There we go, viewers. There is the integrated child seat I've managed to pull out. I just had to yank it a bit more. It's rated, apparently, for children between 3 and 6 years, 50 to 25 kilograms, and then there's some adjuster or something, and 22 to 36 kilograms, 6 to 10 years. It's rated them as well, sitting in a different position. You can see that head restraint needs to go up to do that. Right, I think the only thing we need to do, apart from see if my secret mission documents go in the glove box, is to have a look at the engine. Gosh, that's hard with one hand while you're filming. Yes. Once again, here we have Volvo's famous red block engine. You can see it genuinely is a red block down there. In this case, it's the B200 FT. It's known as a 2-litre turbo engine with 155 horsepower. The last 940 I drove was also a 2-litre, but that only had 111 horsepower. These are actually really, really easy engines to work on. You can see the cover for the cam belt is actually right in front of you. It's a bit like a Ford Pinto engine in that respect, and it's actually quite easy to do the cam belt on one of these. So loads of space to work on things. Obviously we've got a big turbo just here. It's not the most powerful turbo. You could get a 190 horsepower 2.3 turbo, as well as some other versions of that as well. But yeah, pretty easy to work on. This car is in such nice condition. There's really not much to talk about in here. Not really anything at all. Battery is sort of down there. ABS pump is just here. Bosch ABS pump in this one. Power steering is just there. Got some various belts down there. I think we've actually got 3 sort of auxiliary belts in here. One's obviously the aircon as well. And because we've got an automatic transmission car here, we've got an aircon radiator somewhere in there too. Sorry, auto trans radiator somewhere in there as well. But yeah, pretty simple. This car is in immaculate condition. You do get sort of rust in some of the sort of side panels, like the rear arches and front wings. It's actually not as common as you'd imagine on such old cars. They're very well engineered, these indeed. If you look after them, they'll just keep on going. Change the cam belt, change the oil, red blocks, don't know, 500,000 miles plus in some cases. Right, let's go for another drive, shall we, viewers? Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. One of the things about this car, for somebody like me who grew up with a red block engine Volvo in a family, my mother had one from 1990 to 2001, it's just how comfortingly familiar this all is. Now this is a bit of a newer design than my mother's one was. The 240's origins date back to the 60s, but the sound of the engine's quite familiar. You know, we're not really running on much turbo pressure at all. You do need to push this car a little bit to actually make really fast progress. Turbo needs a bit of persuasion to sort of get going, but that's fine if you're just ambling along without a care in the world, as you know, number of drivers of 940s would be, then it's okay. But if you want to press on a bit, the car will oblige as well. The steering, actually, although it's light, it does feel very direct, and this sort of rear wheel drive layout means that these cars can be used to go sideways. Now, I couldn't possibly say if anybody I know has ever done that before, but yes, it's not me. I'm a moderate driver, viewers, as you probably know, and I almost actually bought a 940 Estate earlier this year. It had a beige leather interior. Didn't buy that car in the end. Somebody else got to it before I did. But yes, I've always sort of kind of wondered about having one of these, because I've driven so many of them that, you know, one of these might slip into my life at some point. I don't know. But certainly driving this one in this concourse condition, Wentworth with the 2-litre turbo engine, has been a very, very agreeable experience, and I'm very grateful to Mr. Coleman for allowing me to take his pride and joy out. Let's now look at some Volvo 940 trim levels, viewers. The one to the Saloon is slightly different from the Estate, so if I've made some mistakes here, unfortunately the site I used to use to get accurate trim level information has removed it for old cars like this. So this is sort of based on sort of half guess, in, one point of view. So we had the S, the L, the GL, the 940 Turbo, the SE, which sort of meant different things at different times in the trim level hierarchy. GLE, which is a favourite of mine, but Wentworth obviously. The Classic, I have seen 940 Classic Saloons. CD, Special Edition, I think, and the Sports Edition. These were also made not just in Sweden, but in Belgium, Canada, Indonesia, and Thailand, which always surprises me with cars like this. I have seen Volvos in Indonesia and 960 things like that, but I don't think they're necessarily that popular. So viewers, should you consider a Volvo 940 Saloon as a practical, nostalgic car for your hard-earned budget of between £1,000 and £5,000? Well, I checked actually today, and there is a 940 Wentworth 2 Turbo Saloon on Car and Classic for £3,500. It's got sort of similar mileage to this one. This one's even better than that one. And actually, this is probably one of the best sensible second-hand classics you can buy. If you go for an estate, they tend to be cheaper. The Saloons are rarer and therefore more expensive. This one is virtually concours. It's right at the upper end of that sort of figure. But they are really, really good cars. You've got to get used to the size of these things, and they won't be for everybody. But having driven 4 of them on the channel now, I sort of understand why people really, really like them, and they tend to be at the top of the kind of quality and reliability level for cars of this age, if they've been looked after, of course. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and comment below, and we shall see you again soon for more reasonably priced nostalgic motoring.
1, 2, 3, 4. Every blue day, every day with blue skies.